City boys. I will try to make this quick. We've got a little competition going on up here. To see who's the best. So I'm not sure I'm going to win. So I'll just tell you that. All right. First of all, before we get started talking about the boys, I just want to say a special thanks to all the folks that were involved. I know Tony Foster and Rhonda Wilson were directly involved in the match. There were plenty of parents involved from the girls' side as well. So thank you very much. This is a really cool venue. It looks great. Thanks so much. Also, wanted to recognize Jim Silva for his effort on the and then there's a long list of parents who volunteered at the Snack Shack and then for driving and so on and so forth. And so we couldn't do a full season without you guys. In particular, Melanie Moen, Ron Locke, Britton Wilson, Mark Tullio, Michael Foster are some parents that I know drove more than one time. So thank you very much. All right, so I'll just jump straight to the season highlights. If you were around last year, you know that last year was a struggling season, and the goal was to make improvements, both individually for the athletes as well as the team as a whole. We did in fact make improvements across the board, and so I'm very pleased with the way the team performed this year. Just to quickly summarize, we attended the Sierra Shootout in Rockland. Last year we finished third in the B division. That bumped us up to the A division, which is extremely competitive because it's a 64-team tournament, and we were able to preserve our spot in the 18th going into next season. A week later at the Merced tournament, we at the last minute got swapped with Johansson down to the B division by virtue of their meeting us in the preseason game. And I think that we all took offense to that move, and in doing so, we went 5-0 on the weekend, winning the B division outright. And while tournaments are fun and tournaments are crucial to your development as a team, really, in our section, the SJS, what really matters when it comes to making the playoffs and advancing into the postseason is your record in the conference. Last year, we did not perform the way we wanted, and so the goal was to make improvements this year. In which case, we were able to beat both Merced and Golden Valley in conference play, and we took Merced in the second round to a one-goal loss that was well within our reach, as well as taking the fourth place team to a one-goal game where we had a lead with 4 minutes to go. So 2 wins and 2 very close losses, which I am extremely proud of the boys for making that improvement with a strong class of juniors, having lost many seniors last year. So congratulations on that. So I just wanted to highlight a couple of moments. I know we're all kind of ready to move along, but you might get a kick out of some of these. I have the most frustrating moments, the funniest moments, the coolest moments, and my proudest moments. And so I'll make this quick. My most frustrating moment, which I think is indicative of the season as a whole, is when we showed up to fall camp at 7 a.m. on that Monday morning only to find the pool closed sign. Forcing us to sit out the first 3 practices of fall camp. Okay, and so we were 6 hours behind schedule in our training before we even got wet. So I was a little frustrated about that, but we were able to bounce back and make the most of the situation, and the guys were all pretty positive. I've got 2 funny moments, both coming from the Sierra Shootout in Rockland. We're gathering here in the parking lot at 5:36 a.m. It's dark, it's cold, everyone's kind of tired, and we're gathering. And there were a couple of people who were invited up from the JV to travel, and everybody had to do a permission slip. And one of our sophomores who was invited up to travel with us forgot his permission slip. Sean, do you know what I'm talking about? I'm definitely feeling old as a middle-aged man, and it was the funniest thing ever to see Sean go into panic mode and start screaming at his phone, "Siri, call mom immediately." Moment comes from the same tournament. It was late in the day Saturday. We're going into game 3, walking into the facility. Everyone's tired and drained and this and that. And one of our seniors, I overhear him. He's not talking to me, but he's talking to somebody. And he says, "Man, these porta potties at college are really nice." Robbie Bottom. All right, maybe quickly here. My coolest moment, at least from my perspective, it was really, really cool when the team and the parents and everybody came together to attend the college game up in Stockton, UOP versus Stanford. And when you drove in, I was late showing up. When I drove in and saw the tailgate and all the guys hanging out in their polo shirts, to me that was just a really, really cool and fun moment that I hope will turn into an annual tradition moving forward. Thank you, Paul. All right, and my proudest moment, and this is what coaching youth and youth sports is all about. Winning and losing is always, well, winning's fun, losing's not very fun. I think sometimes we get caught up in measuring who we are as people based on our win-loss record. And that's not something that I believe in, at least from a philosophical standpoint. My proudest moment as a coach were 2 moments. One was at the Rockland tournament. We were leaving breakfast on Saturday morning, and a gentleman, stranger, stopped me and complimented the boys on their behavior in the cafeteria and how well they conducted themselves. And you got, what do we have, 17 teenage boys? That's a recipe for trouble. And this gentleman, he said he had coached soccer for years, and he had never been so impressed with a group of young men. So, as far as I'm concerned, I believe it was Andre and maybe somebody else offered their seat to an elderly woman who was coming in behind, and that got a lot of recognition as well. These are the kinds of character traits we look for. We're trying to develop in these young men as coaches, and so when stuff like that happens and you get that kind of feedback, it really makes the win-loss record kind of become secondary. And I want you boys to know I'm really proud of you, and I'm honored to be working with you. All right, let's get to the boys. This is about them after all, right? All right, I'm going to try to keep it brief and on point. I'm going to call people up individually. The first player I'm going to bring up is a first-time player who came out for water polo as a junior. It's not something you would normally advise as a coach, is having a junior who is forced to play varsity for the first time, but this individual was up for the challenge. I figured I'd make him a backup goalie and give him a chance to kind of ease into the sport and learn the game without a lot of pressure. And he embraced his role really, really well, working with our starting goalie on a daily basis in terms of conditioning and game prep and so on. As the season progressed, I was looking to give him some time in the water as a field player because I felt like he had begun to really understand the game, and so we were able to get him a couple minutes in the field. I'm excited to have Nick Tullio back next year, and you can count on playing in the field more often. Next individual is another junior. Came out into the season, had some sort of shoulder issues and so on and so forth. Eventually kind of discovered his talent as a defender. I think the team, we all agree, those of us kind of watching from the side, We're very impressed with his play against Merced at that scrimmage day up at Bayer, where he learned how he could use the wall and these old tools to his advantage, shutting down his offensive opponent. This player has also proven that he's not afraid to shoot the ball. When you combine his enthusiasm for offense and his strong skills on defense, I'm looking forward next year to having the offense and defensive weapon coming from Bryce Long. Okay, another junior. This junior, first-time player, extremely fast swimmer, accomplished swimmer, and happens to come with the bonus package of the left arm. When you combine a left arm with speed, as a coach, even though the athlete is a first-year player, you have to quickly evaluate, is this player coachable? Does this player listen to instructions? Will they follow instructions, so on and so forth? And I quickly learned that this young man is a quick study, and I figured we needed, since he was a junior, to fast-track him and get him as much experience as possible so that next year, as a senior, we can utilize the left hand, the speed, and a year of experience under the belt. My favorite moment for this player is when he scored an early goal against Golden Valley in the overtime game we won, and he threw his fist in the air like a college or an Olympic player would do and looked to the crowd, and I was like, all right, he's a gamer. All right, now look live. Next player is a junior returning varsity. Was kind of pushed into a varsity role last year due to our personnel numbers being a little low. He started the season kind of back and forth between starting and first off the bench. By the second half of the season, demonstrated his skills at throwing exclusions by cutting off his man and earning the ejection, which is something we really push given our ability to score the 6-on-5. And so with that, I moved him into a starting role for the second half of the season, and this is a young man who's extremely coachable. He's honest. He's willing to accept and acknowledge mistakes and go after it and make sure those mistakes don't happen again. In fact, I broke a pair of sunglasses as a result of one of the mistakes, and he quickly came to point out, Coach, that won't happen again. All right. So I really appreciate Frank Aliato. Next player is a junior, first-year varsity player. Like Frank, moved back and forth between starting position, first off the bench, depending on the scheme we were running. This young man is a very kind of a quiet, composed player, at least in the water, and kind of lets his playing speak for himself. Pretty strong swimmer, and a smart player, and someone who learns quickly. Looking forward to having Matt Silva return next year. All right, this next player, first-year varsity player, started pretty much the whole season, with the exception of maybe a few games where I think he was sick. Smart player, particularly on defense. Led the team in steals on defense, and at the same time put up 6 goals against Golden Valley in our overtime win. I think the score was 12-11, and Ethan Woodruff scored 6 of those goals. He got punched in the jaw, and with his father being a dentist, I'm like, for the weekend with Ethan, and he came right back out and suited up and continued to play. So I appreciate your toughness as well. Okay, moving on to some of our seniors. This player is a 4-year water polo player here at Pittman, someone who works as hard, if not harder, than most of these guys. He puts in the effort day in and day out. At the beginning of the season, the nagging knee injury got in the way of his participation each day, and he ended up sitting out a couple of weeks, which was a real bummer for his development. But as soon as he could get back in the water, he was enthusiastic about doing so, and did his best to try to get into shape as quickly as he could. And really, really exciting to see this young man score his first goal of the season against Livingston. followed by the second goal of the season against Oakdale at Oakdale, Mateo Cruz. This next senior, I'm told, played his freshman and sophomore year. I'll take everybody's word on that. Did not play last year, which I didn't really know much about this young man until swim season. Met him during swim season. Learned that he is a hard worker with just the right character that every coach wants to have on his team. As a strong swimmer, with little knowledge about his water polo, similar to some of these other guys, I did a quick study on this young man and found that I can coach him, and he'll do what you're at or do what I ask, and picked up the game rather quickly, earning himself a starting position actually. Unfortunately, broke his hand in the Turlock game on a shot that was taken, and so ended his season prematurely, which was a huge setback for the team, and I'm sure a setback for you individually. So, Trey Mullen. This next player is a utility player with pretty good swim speed. Not able to play summer polo, so kind of came into the season maybe lacking a little bit of fitness. Worked hard to get his fitness back up so that we could utilize him in the utility role. Did a great job. Really was an important player. We had a 14-man roster, so in practice, we got 7-on-7, and with the number of people who got injured this year, and the number of people who got sick, we needed as many guys as we could for a handful of those weeks. And so I was really appreciative that he was here every day, never got hurt, never got sick, and I really appreciate how he helped make his teammates better. That's Austin Susan. Next player, another utility player like Austin, has pretty good swim speed, but as I just said, somehow injured his hand at the beginning of the year, which I felt bad for him, but it was quite entertaining watching him try to push through practice with one arm, try to do jump outs with one arm. So this young man also faced a setback early on, but was able to overcome the injury soon enough. And once his hand was recovered, he worked his way back into his utility role. And by the end of the season, actually was starting a couple of games for us. That is Santino Anguisse. This young man entered the season coming off a strong summer playing at the Junior Olympics. Came back with quite a reputation from both his teammates and some other people that I know in the water polo community who were able to observe his fast-track development over the summer. Kind of developed an identity as an emerging goalkeeper with the right physical skill set and the right attitude to become a remarkable goalie. Justin and I, at the beginning of the season, had some decisions to make. Oh boy, this guy, he's really improved. Maybe we should move him up to varsity. Maybe we should leave him down with the sophomores and let those guys gel. We didn't quite know how to approach it. We decided to leave him down. And then our starting goalie decided to focus on track and field. So that left a vacancy for this young man. And I don't know how, we haven't really talked about it privately to see how you feel, but sometimes when you get thrown into that position as a sophomore, it can be a little overwhelming. He did not miss a beat. He jumped right into the role and took over as a leader and became a trustworthy goalie. And when you have a goalie who's manning the cage that 6 guys in the water can trust, it just changes the dynamic of the team altogether. So I'm really looking forward to spending the next 2 years with this young man and watching him develop. And as a result of his attitude and his work ethic, Garrett Wilson is also being awarded the Coaches Award for 2 years. Next gentleman is a co-captain, by far our most experienced player on the roster, our primary 2-meter defender. This young man loves water polo more than most people I've ever met who love the game. He cannot get enough of it. Spent the summer training, went to Junior Olympics, followed by a trip to the Hawaiian Invite in Honolulu, and came back into the season fit, sharp, and ready to rock and roll. This young man is a returning player. He started on varsity last year, and was thrown into a starting position as a sophomore. Quickly developed into a formative player, and in addition to his 2-meter defense, he also orchestrated defensive schemes. So if we were going to switch from a press to a drop within the water, this young man was able to kind of call the shots and pull the strings from within, which is a huge, huge help. So this young man was honored at the All-League meeting as an honorable mention All-Conference, and will win the 2017 Pittman Defensive Player of the Year Award. Next gentleman, I'll always have the visual of the first day of last season, his first day at the pool. I wasn't sure if he was going to make it. Quickly showed last year that he was a quick learner and a hard worker, and developed into a top JV player. So we were super excited to have him move up to varsity. He's got size, he's got strength, and he's got a gunslinging arm when it comes to outside shooting. He's supposed to play club polo over the summer. That kind of fell through. So we had some stuff to work on at the beginning of the year to get you into shape. And so I kind of experimented with different starting rotations. And I don't remember which game it was off the top of my head, but a game that he did not start in, I subbed him in, I don't know, late in the first. And he put up 5 goals and became our leading scorer right out of the gate. And so looking forward to having our second team All-Conference and our 2017 Offensive Player of the Year, Andre Shields. Okay, last but not least, my senior leader and co-captain with Brady. Late last season, I discovered that as a junior, we had a senior-heavy roster. He got limited playing time, but when he was getting in, I was able to kind of observe. This is a smart kid. He understands the game. We just need to make him stronger when it comes to swimming and get him some more minutes to polish up that skill set. He came into this season taking on just a natural leadership role, communicating with me, asking questions, what should we do here, what should we do there, and so without a doubt kind of took on the role since we lost 6 seniors last year, took on the role of senior leader. What was a lot of fun to watch is that this young man developed quickly this season, and you know, it's one of those things in sport, you definitely want to play your best polo late in the season as opposed to early in the season, and this gentleman did this, scoring a formative goal against El Cap, I believe, in the game that we almost had, which you know, still frustrating, but you were there. Robbie Foster was honorable mention All-Conference, and will be receiving the Most Improved Award. I'm in 4th place for the time count. I still improved my time. This is the 2017 Varsity Boys.